Thank you guys so much for being here today. I wanted to have you guys on the show for some time now because a lot of people not only have goals and dreams entrepreneurially, but many of us actually have dreams of starting something with our partner. And you guys are actually doing it, building something from the ground up. Can you tell the audience what J. Angelo is and what the inspiration was for the business?
Yeah, sure. For lack of a better word, I'm Jay Angelo. My name is Jordan Angelo. I started this company 4 years ago with the purpose of wanting to build high-end luxury properties at an affordable price. Now, being 18, 19 years old, I can't really get into that space, especially being a college dropout. So the best way to get into the industry was to start designing stuff from scratch. So I taught myself software. I taught myself how to read architectural blueprints, floor plans, all of that stuff. And that's what I just started to do. I got my first client. And from there on out, we decided to make the business out of it. So we're 4 years into it and things have been great.
Sabrina, how did you get involved and what is the role that you play?
Yeah, so we started everything together. When we had been offering freelance services, but when we really kicked everything off, it was in 2021, and we had done everything together, like website design, coming up with our name, our logo, our kind of business plan at the time. But also at the time, I was in grad school, and I also started working my first 9 to 5 shortly after. So I knew that I was going to be a big part of it, but I knew that I wouldn't have been able to play as big of a role yet because I was, like I said, in grad school and, planning on working my first job. So yeah, I really helped with a lot of the back end stuff initially, like again, like the website, a lot of the initial marketing that we did. And that kind of was my role moving forward until December of last year when I left my job. And that's when I decided to go all in with Jordan. And now I'm still more of the back end role, but on a more advanced level.
I love that. I love that. And so I'm hearing you guys say that you guys are balancing the responsibilities. Jordan, it
Mhm.
sounds like you're on the front end doing a lot of the design work. Sabrina, you're counterbalancing the back office. Did you guys just slide into those roles or did that just naturally come to be?
Well, I think naturally because he's the one with the design talent, whereas I more come from the background of customer success, account management, sales, marketing. So I think it was a perfect blend of like, let me take care of more of the client facing stuff, the back end stuff, and then you focus on the actual design aspect because he's the one who has all the talent and knowledge when it comes to actually reading architectural blueprints, designing homes, and and the whole creativity part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the beginning, nobody really knows what they're doing. No one really knows or has a book on what to do, a checklist, whatever. So, I mean, honestly, we kind of just fell into it. I saw that I was doing a lot of the design. Sabrina's more good on the back end stuff, the website stuff, the marketing stuff. So we kind of really just fell into it. And then, once we actually made a business model, we found out I'll stick to the front end stuff. She'll stick to the back end stuff. And yeah, it's worked out so far. I think it's very important to figure out if you're going to go into a business, figure out what you're good at instead of
Mhm.
trying to do everything yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because with any business, you're never going to scale doing everything yourself. So for me, at least in the beginning, I was doing everything for 2+ years, everything all by myself. Sabrina was helping a little bit, but she was working and she was in school. So I didn't have that full-time help. And I noticed that, hey, if I'm going to scale this, if we're going to do this together, we need to have specific roles in the company. And like Sabrina said, in December of last year, she left her job, she joined full time, and things have been up from there. So
I love that. I love that. And I'm going to come right back to the concept of delegating, leaning into your strengths. I want to talk about courage because I want to, first of all, acknowledge both of you for the courage that it takes to start a business. I'm going to ask both of you this question, but slightly differently. Jordan, you said at the beginning of this conversation, you don't have a college degree.
no.
So it took a lot of courage, I'm sure, to buck the system, so to speak, go outside the norms to begin something entrepreneurially, but not only that, doing it in a business that has a lot of barriers to entry, with a lot of, I would call it like a landed gentry almost, in terms
Yeah,
of older people running the show. You did it at
definitely.
such a young age. Walk us through that. How did you push through any of the doubts or limiting beliefs you had?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a roller coaster for the first year or two. It was just trial and error. I mean, I started the idea at 18. I actually started the business model at 19. And yeah, it was tough being 19, especially not having a degree. And then trying to make other people who've been in the industry for 40 years trust me on a multi-million-dollar project. That's very tough. And that's a hard thing that I had to overcome. But what I learned is that it really doesn't matter your age. It really matters what you know and your experience. And
Mhm.
if you really know what you're doing, because even right now, I'm 23. I still don't have a degree. I still don't really have the 40 years experience like everyone else does, but I know what I'm talking about. So that makes it much easier to get into those higher end properties, projects, higher end companies. It allows them to trust me because I know what I'm talking about. So when you're starting out, I don't care how old you are, I don't care what your experience is when you first start out, teach yourself everything there is to know.
Mhm.
And I did this all without spending a dollar. Find books online, find content online, figure out how to study the people that have accomplished what you want to do and learn everything there is to know about them. That's how I got my start. And that's ultimately why I was able to have people of high value trust me in what I'm doing.
And I'm hearing you say, in a lot of ways, you took something that could be viewed as a huge disadvantage, like your age, your relative experience, and you flipped it right on its head. Like,
Yeah.
you went out and got the experience firsthand by
Yeah.
doing it versus dropping money on degrees or other classes, things like that.
Yeah.
Is it, on top of that practical hands-on experience, is it just having the guts to get out there and sell yourself in that way? Walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, starting out, nobody has anything. So right in the beginning, you have to understand that everything's from scratch. You don't have a single thing to your name. So you just have to try anything that you can do to get started. I don't care what industry you want to get into. I don't care how big of a leap it might seem for you. You just have to start. And the best way to do that is to teach yourself everything there is to know about it. Like I said, I was reading books for free online, listening to audiobooks, watching podcasts, doing all this stuff for absolutely free so that I could understand how people talk in my industry, how people have actually overcame different obstacles. And that's one thing that I think a lot of people overlook, especially with social media. They see all this content that's not very valuable. They just get stuck watching these kids online make millions of dollars. And, you know, social media can be used as a huge tool. And a lot of people don't do that. And that's what I did at an early age. And that's really why I was able to give myself confidence, because in the beginning, no one has confidence. No one has the motivation to drop everything that you have and try to start a company. No one's confident in themselves. So if you could at least teach yourself something, especially for no money, which is what I did, that confidence is going to come relatively quickly.
I love that you're saying all this, because so often we put limitations on what's possible because of outside and external circumstances. And folks, for you listening to this, like, please go back and listen to everything Jordan just said, because no matter what your obstacle is, if you think of life as a game and your set of circumstances are just the set of rules you are blessed to play the game by in that particular moment, you can actually begin to start moving the needle on your life and creating what it is that you want with your time here on this earth.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I have a really interesting viewpoint on life. I say this to a lot of people that just ask my advice. I say, I look at my life as if I have a documentary crew filming every single day. Now, if that was actually true, think about it. Would you sleep in on a Sunday? No, you'd probably get up and
No.
start being productive. Would you do or make certain decisions or talk to certain people or spend time with certain people doing certain things? if you had a documentary crew filming you 24/7? No, you probably wouldn't. You would do everything that you can to prove to people, to show people that you're doing things right. And that's how I live. And that's how I've lived for the past 3 years, because it truly helps. It's a motivation. It's, hey, you know what? Pretend people are watching this. I'm not going to slack off. I'm not just going to do the bare minimum. I'm just not going to do whatever I want. I'm going to do it all right now. And that's a big motivation for me.
So good. So good. Sabrina, I want to kick it back over to you again, going back to the topic of courage. Obviously, Jordan dropped out of college, started the business. You did something too, though, that actually a lot of people are afraid to do, and that is leaving the job, leaving the steady paycheck, leaving the steady career to go all in 2 feet first on something entrepreneurial. And can you walk us through what that process was like for yourself, for you to jump on in to the business?
Yeah, leaving my job was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And that's for a few different reasons. Now, I'm not saying it was easy for Jordan to jump into this, but, for me, as somebody who did put in the 4 years of college, somebody who, I obviously, neither did he grow up with a lot of money. So for me, my mindset was always like, I have to go to college. I have to do good. I have to get a 9 to 5, and I have to, just do that until I can retire in my 60s. And, to get a job like I did right out of college was seriously such a blessing. And I was able to, excel in my position and in the company. And it was an amazing job, an amazing company. And so I had to say, listen, like, I love what I'm doing. I love the people I'm with, and I love the recurring money, right? It provides you a safety net. But at the same time, I have these big goals. And if I don't act now, I don't know if I'm ever going to act. And so the end of the year was approaching, and things were starting to ramp up a little bit, and I was like, now is the time. I have to just kind of pull the plug. And it was scary because I don't have any friends or family that have done what I've done. I had no one to say, oh well, this person did it. I was just doing it on my own. And coming from something that I've worked so hard to excel in my role in the company, and like something that I was proud of, that job getting out of college, to then just throw it away to go and take a huge risk was scary. But ultimately I weighed my options, and I knew that if I hadn't acted then, I would have never did it. So it was kind of like ripping a band-aid off. Definitely had to build up some courage, but I will say sometimes you have to just stop overthinking and just kind of do it, because we as humans get stuck in analysis paralysis. We overthink everything, and we sometimes we just have to do it. So that's kind of what I did.
Awesome. Well, I acknowledge you because, the business is growing, it's flourishing, and because you are able to devote all of your time and energy to it, you're not getting the split result.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that you didn't have anybody in your life who had done something like this. I know that you talked about more or less just ripping the band-aid off, making it happen, choosing that life is now. When you made that decision, obviously it supported the business and taking off, but where else did you see that impact your life?
A way that it impacted me was honestly the sense, or not the sense, but the feeling of having people around me. Like, one thing that was really hard for me was losing the people that I spent, even though it was a remote job, I spent my days with. And so that was something that he knows I was trying to navigate as I left, was not having coworkers anymore, not having people I can lean on. If there's a problem with the business, it's just us two. There's no one I can go to and be like, hey, I need to bounce ideas off of you, or I need your support. It's like, no, this is it. So a big part was losing that family feeling and that employee connection. Because when you do go in on a business, it's lonely. Like, you don't have a lot of time for friends, for family either. It's really locking yourself up and just grinding for the amount of time that you need to. So losing that, talking to people every day, working with people, to just being him and I was very hard, and it definitely impacted me for sure.
Absolutely. Some question for both of you, something that I'm kind of working through in my own life currently is just the idea of the more we work on ourselves, the more we pursue our goals and dreams, our circles actually get smaller and smaller. And like that's not saying we're kicking mom and dad to the curb necessarily,
Yeah.
but we tend to be in the orbit of people that are up to bigger and bigger things, the more we are ourselves.
Mhm.
How has that impacted your guys' lives? Has it been additive? Is it something that you wrestle with? Tell me more about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, it's so true because I mean, the short answer is yeah, when you start growing, you start unfortunately cutting people out of your life, if not fully, then drastically. A big thing for us was moving down to South Florida. And it's actually a year this month that we got down here. But even though it's been such a great move for us business wise, we left everything at home. We left both of our big Italian families are all in New Jersey. We had a great friend group in New Jersey, and we left all of it. That's something that really still to this day kind of hurts us because we know that the only thing that matters is time and people that you value. But you have to play with the fact that even though that stuff matters, we have to make whatever our goals are, we have to make them come true, and we have to do whatever it takes to get there. So I mean,
Yeah, it's finding a way to navigate how do I still spend time and talk to the people that I care about while also working on my goals. The
Mhm.
goal of, the main goal of, working towards financial freedom is to be able to then come back and say, okay, now I have all this time to spend with you. Now I can take care of you. So it's like a weird thought process in your head. Like, I want to be with these people now, but if I stay in New Jersey, I know I'm not going to reach my goals. So we had to figure out, we've been battling with how to manage that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even though it's very challenging to leave family, leave friends behind, I've done it myself a couple of times. Ohio is actually state number 8 for me. I
oh
don't know
wow,
if you guys knew that, but
no.
it never gets easier. But I also believe that the relationships that are meant to stay are the ones that endure anything.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
We learned that along the way. Like, people, will get very weird when you start to achieve things, and you'll see who your true friends, your true friends are.
yeah, no, for sure. And the ones that are truly your day ones, so to speak, whether it's family or your actual friends, like they continue to show up and love and support no matter
Mhm.
what. Something I wanted to ask you both, and one of the big reasons I wanted to have you guys on, it's again one thing to start a business, it's another thing to go into business with your significant other. That is something that people will say over and over again, don't ever do that, don't go in with your wife, don't go in with your girlfriend, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. How and why has it worked for you guys?
Well, I want to start off by saying you have to think very hard about that decision. If you're faced with that opportunity, that's amazing, but you have to really think about it. And, you kind of have to figure out what that means. How have we made it work? I mean, there's a lot of arguing, there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of disagreeing, there's a lot of not seeing eye to eye on business specific topics. So, sometimes it doesn't work and sometimes it's not the best thing because in business, you sometimes have to have those difficult business conversations. And when it's with someone that you actually care about, not just a coworker, but someone that you're spending your life with, it's hard to navigate. Hey, right now it has to be business professional. I have to put your feelings aside and we have to make the best decision for the business versus
Mhm.
also understanding, hey, in an hour, I'm going to be spending the rest of my night with this person and I have to make sure that I don't hurt their feelings. So it's a very complicated, it's a complicated decision that, for us, we've quote unquote made it work. But I'm not going to sit here and say that it's been absolutely perfect
Yeah.
because, it'll never be absolutely perfect. Whether it's a coworker, whether it's your parents, a sibling, if you go into business with someone, it's not ever going to be perfect. So you just have to be ready for that if that's something that you're trying to do for yourself.
But at the end of the day, regardless of, how hard it might be, and a lot of couples in business will tell you that it is tough, having, a significant other or even a friend that you're going to business with that's supportive and shares the same end goal as you is very important, right? You might have some battles along the way with different personalities colliding or different thought processes. At the end of the day, having somebody to do things with is very, very helpful. And I think that if anyone out there looking to start a business can find somebody, whether it's a friend, a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, or even just a business partner to work with, I think it's very effective having two people or more working at the same goal.
Yeah, and I mean, one other thing I'd like to add is it's so important to, from day one, communicate what your specific goals are, what you want to accomplish, what you want to see out of this business or out of your end goal. And that's something that we were talking about for years. For the past 3-4 years, we've had some very specific goals that we want to hit. And in those hard times where we might not see eye to eye, with those arguments, with those times where we need to really act like business partners and not some people in relationships, we always have to remember that we're both working towards the same goal. So if you don't establish that on day one, then things are going to be very difficult, because it's not uncommon for people to go into something. This person might want one thing, this person might want the other thing, and it makes those hard times even more difficult to go through. So just figuring out exactly what you want out of whatever you're deciding to do is essential from day one. So that's what helps us out a little bit.
One quick follow-up to that, and this is independent if someone's business partner is someone they're also romantically involved with, but so often I hear of people wanting to get into business. Maybe they do get into business with somebody, and a couple weeks or months or years in, there's just not the same level of commitment between the partners. How do you keep somebody engaged? Is it something you get to establish up front? How do you make sure all parties are all in when taking on something as big as starting a business?
Yeah. I mean, what I go to the very first time someone comes to us and talks about business, I say, okay, if you want to do this, you have to build a strong foundation. You can't build a house on a weak foundation. It's going to crumble. So if you don't have a strong mental foundation and goal-oriented foundation, once you start building a business on top of that, it's going to crumble. So from day one, everybody needs to have a strong foundation. That's mindset on not just what your goals are, but your mindset on money, your mindset on finances, your mindset on business, your mindset on people that you have in your life. Your mindset has to be, I don't want to say perfect because no one's perfect, but your mindset has to be in the best place that it's ever been. Because if you have a poor mindset going into business, especially with someone that you're related to or you have some sort of connection with, if you don't have the right mindset, it's going to crumble and it's not going to work. So down the line, 3-4 years into it, if someone's not committed, that has something to do with their foundation. The foundation starts on day one. Hey, we want to get to this point. If 3 years down the line, you're starting to say, I don't want to do this anymore, remember the conversation from day one. And that's how I see business. That's how I see life. I see everything very black and white. You said you wanted one thing, you have to do it. There's nothing in between. So that's my answer to that one.
Anything you'd add, Sabrina?
No, I think what he said, and I think, I'm a very big mindset person, always working on your mindset, always doing mindset work, to get you through those tough times, right? Because we're how many years into our business, and even this year we've had some hiccups where we were just feeling very negative and just doubtful at times, and it always comes back to our mindset and doing mindset work. So I think even if you're 5, even 10 years into a business, but you're starting to feel doubtful and you're starting to let your mindset slip, you have to work on improving that, and then that's gonna improve everything else around you. So
100%.
yeah,
I love that so much. And I'm really was wanting to ask you guys this because you guys are in the business, you guys are building something that's real and tangible together. Mindset is important. There's also always something happening that's outside of our control. I mean, as we're recording this, we are in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, and I know that thankfully it did not affect you guys in South Florida the way it did maybe more the Tampa Bay area. But when something major happens, what is your guys' North Star for getting right back where you need to be mindset wise?
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch on it a little bit, but Sabrina really, really hones in on the mindset stuff. But for me, really quick, the one thing that when we get into these modes, and everyone will, I don't care who you are, I don't care how masculine you might be, you're going to hit some roadblocks with mentality. And the best thing for me is just that, if people around you, if your family, if your friends are all healthy, if you're healthy, if you have a roof over your head, if you're able to buy food at the store, everything's fine. It doesn't matter what's happening in business, what's happening outside. You can't, whatever it is that you can't control, if those things are in check, then everything's fine. And that allows me to just take a deep breath, because some things that we stress about, that we get anxious about or nervous about, if you just take a step back, they don't really matter, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So if those key things are all okay, then that's sort of a reset for me. It's like, all right, everything's fine. The important things in our life is fine. Let's take a deep breath and let's figure out how to get past this.
Yeah, I agree. Like we really saw this year when we had a family friend pass away. And at that time, we were really stressed about business related things. And when that happened, when we got that call that morning, everything kind of just about the business just paused for a second. And we were like,
Mm-hmm.
our business is very important. But when you go through these tough, times in your life, when something happens, you have to be okay to just say, you know what, my business is important, but my clients can wait a few days, right? This can wait a few days. I have something more important to go through. And so for people, for example, who are affected by the hurricane, like their clients, their coworkers, whoever, are just going to have to understand that, because there are going to be more important things in life that come up, and you're just going to have to be okay to step away from your business for a few days or however long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like I'm hearing you guys say the keys are being willing to pause when you need to,
Yeah.
and also remembering that life is beautiful and that there's always something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, that's one thing that this year we really we kind of were just upset with ourselves because we weren't realizing everything that we had. We moved down here to South Florida. We're less than 2 miles from the beach. We have everything that 3-4 years ago we could have ever dreamed about, but we were very stressed. We were very mentally drained. We were very just focused on whatever we were doing. And it's so important to just realize where you are in life, because like I just said, 3 or 4 years ago, if we told ourselves back then what we're doing right now, it would have blown our minds.
Yeah.
And you have to understand where you actually are versus where your head's at, because it's always good. I'm always working towards that next goal. I'm always working towards the next milestone, figuring out how to get somewhere where I'm not right now. But it's also important to just press pause and just realize, hey, we've been doing it, and we've been doing what we've wanted to do for so long. And that's a really important thing to not only teach yourself, but truly understand, because, yeah, we're not at the place that we want to be. We want to be 100 times past where we are right now, but we're a million times further than where we are 4 years ago. So
Yeah. Yeah. So true. If your problems are better and of a higher magnitude this year than they were last year, you're winning, regardless of how stressed you are, how dire things may feel in a business. Like if you're worried about hitting a revenue goal, whereas a year ago you were worried about feeding yourself,
Yeah.
like you're winning. Absolutely.
definitely.
Love that you shared that. I want to switch gears slightly for you guys. We've covered a lot of ground so far. This has been an awesome conversation. I also know both of you to be people of faith. I would love to hear you guys speak into a bit more of what the role of faith plays, not only in maintaining a strong, healthy relationship between the two of you, but also in building the business.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially for me, I feel like I'm more so like more so into my faith. And I think that definitely like leaning into God this year has been a huge thing for me, because I do, like everyone else, struggle sometimes, and sometimes there's really nothing else to do but to turn to God. And I think that when you are going through these really stressful times, especially as a business owner, as somebody who, again, I don't have anyone else to relate to doing this. So I can't go and call a friend and they're going to know what I'm talking about or be able to empathize with me. So it really just being able to turn to God and lean on prayer. And, you know, my faith has been a huge help for me this year. So.
Yeah. Just some insight on maybe people out there that don't dig too deep into this topic, like myself. I'm not a super religious person, but I do have my own faith in my head, and I don't share it with people. I don't talk about it with other people, but I have my own beliefs and my own thought process in my head. And it's just important for everyone individually to just have something that you live by, have something that you believe in, have something that gets you through. And it doesn't necessarily have to be projected out to the world. You know, I know a lot of people are super religious. I know a lot of people aren't. The people who are not, just have something that helps you get through your days. Have something that you could check off at the end of every day and say, you know what, I did this right. I did that right. And that specific example for me is what helps me get through my days.
And I actually really love that you both have a slightly different perspective on this question, because I want people to hear that it doesn't have to look any particular way. It just has to be right for you. And
100%.
And I love that the two of you are together, and maybe, you know, for Sabrina, it looks a certain type of way, and Jordan, for you, it's a bit different. But the fact that you guys are still able to come together and lean into your creator, whatever that looks like for you, and use it to get you through the days, through the hard times, and you know, even with the differences, the relationship is still strong and whole. Like, that's a testament, I think, to the two of you with everything that you're up to.
Yeah, and it just goes back to, again, that strong foundation. The fact that we built this foundation that we have together, and we have the same goals. So I don't care how she gets there. I don't care how I get there, but we're just going to get there together. You know, everyone's path is going to look a little bit different. And that's okay. I don't want people to look up to someone so much where it has to be exactly how they did it. It has to be exactly how someone has done it, because it's never going to be like that. Your path to whatever success is going to come your way is going to be unique to you. And you have to understand that, and you have to truly believe in that, because that's one thing that I think a lot of people can't understand. People feel like they can't get to that point. They can't become successful. They can't accomplish their goals. And I just want people to know that you can, and it's going to be different than everyone else. And you have to be okay with that. And you have to understand that.
I love that. What do you guys feel like is the overall vision for where you want to take J. Angelo?
Yeah, I mean, you know, right now we're focusing on what, you know, we started the company as doing, which are, you know, renderings for luxury real estate. But we are in the works of, you know, starting a new business, which I can't really speak on much yet. But we're excited about that. And then more related to J. Angelo Design Group, in the future, we do want to build our own custom homes. So be more of a design build versus just design. So yeah, that's something that we're looking forward to in the future.
I love that. You know, you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation just the overall goal of financial independence, creating a life where you guys aren't really beholden to anything or anybody. What do you feel like is going to be the moment when you know you've arrived in creating the life for your guys' dreams?
Yeah.
You go. I was going to say, I think you go.
I don't want anybody to think that you need to have a financial number. We don't have a specific number. Hey, we have to make this much money to be able to feel like we are financially free. I think the moment that we're going to feel that, and the moment that everyone should strive for, is just to not worry about the rent, not worry about the mortgage, not worry about the car, the payments, not worrying about going to dinner if you want, you know. We've been having those conversations for 4 years now. You know, a lot of 18-year-olds don't have that conversation. And that's something that I don't know where it came from. Nobody taught me it. I kind of just taught myself. And I realized very early on that it's the time's right now. You know, a lot of people just don't think about this stuff until it's too late, until they have their second kid on the way, until they have a mortgage that they've refinanced 4 times. You know, people need to realize that you have to think about this right now, because the things that we decide to do today are going to directly impact how our kids grow up. And we're not going to be selfish and do things that benefit us now, but hurt our future kids and how they grow up.
You guys don't mind me asking, how old are both of you now?
I'm 23.
25. Yeah.
Well, I want to acknowledge both of you for being on this journey where you are now, because I know I was not thinking about any of this in my early mid 20s. I mean,
Yeah.
I was, grind for the man, so to speak, punching the clock, working 100 hours a week, no time, no consideration of my health, anything like that. But for those of you listening to this, I want to make sure you understand, like, I didn't want to have Sabrina and Jordan on today to be like, look at these awesome people that are figuring this out at a super young age. Like, this is not for you to feel bad about yourself if you're listening to this in your 30s or 40s or 50s or well beyond that. It's just to give you some motivation, some ideas, some inspiration that anything is possible. And as we discussed earlier, it's not about comparing yourself to others, comparing your square one to their square 10 or 12. It's about choosing to grow where you're planted. And then going back to that analogy of being in a game, your current circumstances are just the rules that you are personally blessed to play the game of life by. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
definitely, definitely listen to these two amazing individuals as, someone to look up to, but also just know that they are on their own path and you are on yours. And that is perfect, exactly the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to add, we're not the type of people that, we don't brag about what we do. We don't brag about any of our successes because, we're figuring it out. Nobody's perfect out there. We're just going out there, seeing what sticks to the wall and running with it. That's all that this really has been. We have the strong mental backgrounds. We have the strong business mindset. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're just trying stuff. And if it doesn't work, we try something else or we try it a different way. And that's all that life is. I don't care who you look at. Look at Elon Musk, Mark Cuban, these billionaires of the world. They just figured it out one day, and that's it. People don't have any sort of handbook. They don't have an ABC step list of what to do. It doesn't exist. But what I could tell you is that you're never going to get any sort of traction if you don't just try it. So just go out there and try. That's all you could do. I don't want anyone to look at our situation and feel bad about it, because again, my situation is going to be miles away from everyone else's that's listening right now. But I could assure you, you're never going to get to where you want to be if you don't just try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it doesn't matter what age you are, what stage you are in life, it's never too late. And like we didn't come from parents who were business, like, massive millionaire business. So like we didn't come from any of that. So we just had to figure it out ourselves. And everyone can do that. So
well, guys, I know that we are starting to run short on time. So I want to make sure that folks have the opportunity to connect with you guys off of the podcast. Where would be the most appropriate way for them to connect with you guys, continue the conversation, go from there?
Sure, yeah. I'm actually gonna pull up my TikTok account. I post a lot of business content on there. So if anyone wants to follow me on TikTok, it's at Jordan Angelo 63.
Yeah, my Instagram, Sabrina D'Agostino. There's 2 A's after the N. So Sabrina A. D'Agostino on Instagram.
Awesome. And folks, as always, we're going to make sure that their contact information is made readily available in the comment section, in the show notes, wherever you are finding this podcast episode. And guys, again, I can't thank you both enough for coming on the show today. This has been a treat for me. It's the first time I've actually interviewed two people at once. So,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
in the name of us always challenging and pushing ourselves to do something new and different and better, thank you for the opportunity, but also thank you for the amazing, just everything you guys said hit me on a personal level. So I know it's going to make a huge difference for the listeners. And the very last thing I want to ask you guys, I ask every single guest who's on the show, and I want to hear from both of you. What are you acknowledging yourself for today?
You take it. You go
Um,
first.
well, getting on our first podcast for sure. It's something that, yeah, we've never done. So definitely proud of us for doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, it goes with the doing stuff that you're uncomfortable doing,
Yeah.
you know. Nobody's gonna really understand what it feels like to go out of your comfort zone and accomplish something. And that's something that we've done day in and day out. So figure out something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable and go do it, because that feeling that you get, you can't describe it. You have to experience it yourself, and you have to experience being proud of yourself. And once you start doing that, it's honestly an addictive feeling. You'll start doing it over and over and over again. And honestly, that's the start of your success. So do stuff that intimidates you, do stuff that you don't like doing, because it's going to pay off. Trust me.
Yeah, no, amen to that. I mean, if you guys didn't take those first steps, you guys wouldn't be where you are now. So, major tip of the cap to both of you again. And folks, this has been another episode of Your Inside Track to Success. Again, I'm your host, Stewart Kraintz. I know you got some value from today's conversation, so please share this out with at least one other person. Again, the cost of admission here is always free, so just do your part in making sure that the inspiring messages and guests on this show make it out as far and wide as possible to support you and your loved ones in creating the lives of their dreams. We'll catch you again next week with another guest or message. We'll see you then.